It begins in the mountains of Vermont, where the trees grow thick, the fog lingers low, and the wind carries whispers older than memory. For centuries, locals have said there's something wrong with this place, something that doesn't just frighten people, it takes them. Welcome to the Bennington Triangle, a stretch of wilderness that has swallowed hikers, hunters, and travelers without a trace. No wreckage, no footprints, no clues, just silence. Nestled in the green mountains of southwestern Vermont, between the towns of Bennington, Woodford, and Glastenbury, lies a region of haunting beauty, a wild rolling landscape that seems to breathe with its own ancient rhythm. From a distance, it's peaceful, but to those who have lived nearby, it's a place you respect and never underestimate, because this is where, for nearly a century, people have walked into the forest and never come back. The name Bennington Triangle was first coined by author Joseph A. Citro, who noticed a disturbing pattern of unexplained disappearances and eerie phenomena centered around Glastenbury Mountain, an isolated peak that the Abenaki people once called the Forbidden Place. They believed the mountain was cursed, home to strange winds and spirits that could confuse travelers and lure them away from the path. Hunters spoke of an invisible wall deep in the woods where the forest suddenly fell silent, as if nature itself was holding its breath. And through the years, that breath would claim many lives. The legend truly begins in the 1940s, a decade that would see a series of vanishings so strange, so clean, that even the best investigators of the time were left speechless. The first was Middie Rivers, a 74-year-old hunting guide and lifelong woodsman. He knew these mountains better than anyone. The trails, the streams, even the way the birds sounded before rain. On November 12th, 1945, he was leading a group of 4 hunters up the slopes of Glastenbury Mountain. On the way back, he walked a few steps ahead of the others, not far, just around a bend. When the group caught up, he was gone. They searched for days. Dozens of volunteers combed the hills, calling his name, marking off sections of the forest. Not a single piece of clothing, not a rifle, not a footprint. It was as though the woods had simply opened up and swallowed him whole. Exactly 1 year later, on December 1st, 1946, an 18-year-old college student named Paula Welden decided to go for a walk along the Long Trail, a popular hiking route that wound through the same region. Paula was bright, independent, and adventurous. She'd been feeling restless that weekend, so after finishing her shift at the Bennington College dining hall, she told her roommate she was going for a hike to clear her head. She wore a bright red parka, jeans, and sturdy sneakers, an outfit anyone could spot from miles away. A local driver gave her a lift partway to the trailhead. Other hikers remembered seeing her later that afternoon, walking confidently along the trail. And then, nothing. When Paula didn't return to her dorm that night, panic set in. Hundreds of volunteers joined the search. Police, soldiers, bloodhounds, even clairvoyants. For weeks, they scoured every inch of the Long Trail and the surrounding mountains. They found no trace of her, no clothing, no footprints, no body. The red jacket that should have made her easy to spot was never seen again. To this day, Paula Welden's disappearance remains one of Vermont's most famous unsolved cases. And it was only the beginning. 3 years later, in 1949, a man named James Tedford boarded a bus from St. Albans, Vermont, headed for Bennington, where he lived at a local veteran's home. He sat among 14 passengers, reading quietly as the bus made its stops along the route. Witnesses said he was still on board when the bus left the final stop before Bennington. But when it arrived, James was gone. His luggage was still in the overhead rack. His ticket stub was still in his pocket. His seat was empty. No one saw him get off. He had simply vanished, somewhere between two towns, in the middle of a moving bus. Some believe he disappeared while passing through the very edge of the Bennington Triangle. In 1950, the disappearances continued. 8-year-old Paul Jepson vanished while playing near his family's truck in the town dump just outside Glastenbury. His mother had stepped away for only a few minutes. When she returned, Paul was gone. Police brought in dogs, and they caught his scent. It led them toward the mountains, and then stopped abruptly, as if he'd been lifted off the ground. The boy's bright red jacket, the same color Paula Welden had worn, was never found. Just 16 days later, in October 1950, 53-year-old Frida Langer, an experienced hiker and camper, set out with her cousin for a short walk near Somerset Reservoir. She slipped crossing a stream, got wet, and told her cousin she'd run back to camp to change clothes. She never returned. Search teams scoured the area for weeks. Nothing. Then, 6 months later, her body was found in a clearing that had already been searched multiple times before. Her remains were too decomposed to determine a cause of death. After that, the disappearances stopped. Just as suddenly as they began, 5 people, all within a small radius, all between 1945 and 1950, each vanishing in almost the same area, each case defying logic. And that is how the legend of the Bennington Triangle was born. Over time, the area gained a reputation that bordered on supernatural. Hunters reported strange lights flickering through the trees, orbs that moved with purpose. Campers spoke of deep, unnatural silences, where even the insects refused to make a sound. Others told of being followed by something large, something unseen, pacing them just out of sight. There were stories of a wild man who lived deep in the woods, naked and covered in hair, who threw stones at travelers, stories of shadow figures, and stories of the mountain itself, moving, shifting, alive. Local Native American legends spoke of a stone that swallowed those who stepped on it, a place where the earth opened and consumed the living. Whether you take that literally or not, it fits the pattern. Geologists and historians have tried to explain it scientifically. Some point to iron deposits in the soil, which can interfere with compasses, confusing even experienced hikers. Others suggest sudden weather changes, fog rolling in, temperatures dropping, conditions that can disorient travelers and lead to hypothermia. The terrain is also filled with hidden caves and sinkholes. It's possible that some who disappeared simply fell, their bodies never recovered. But even those explanations can't cover everything. How do you explain James Tedford vanishing from a moving bus, or Frida's body appearing where hundreds had already searched, or the boy whose scent trail simply ended in the air? There's logic, and then there's whatever waits in the heart of Glastenbury Mountain. Today, the area is officially a ghost town. The old settlement of Glastenbury was abandoned more than a century ago after its logging operations failed. Only a handful of cellar holes and crumbling stone foundations remain. Nature has reclaimed it all, as if the mountain itself wanted its solitude back. Few people go there now. Those who do often describe a feeling of being watched, a weight in the air, heavy and still. Even the birds seem quieter. For most, it's just wilderness, but for others, it's something else, a threshold. There's something timeless about the Bennington Triangle, a mystery that's less about what's seen and more about what's felt. It's the unease of knowing people have stood right where you're standing, heard the same wind, and then simply ceased to exist. Maybe it's the landscape itself, vast, wild, ancient. Maybe it's coincidence, or maybe it's something that lives beyond understanding. something that feeds on the lost, something that waits for the next traveler to take the wrong step, to wander too deep, to look up at the trees and realize they're not alone. The Bennington Triangle has kept its secrets for nearly a century, and in those quiet, endless woods beneath the mist and the moss and the whispers of the wind, maybe those secrets still walk. Somewhere between the seen and the unseen, between the map and the void. The forest doesn't forget, it only waits. And sometimes it calls. This is the story of the Bennington Triangle, the forest that swallows people whole.